Guys, 5:52, 53 in the morning. That's how dedicated we are around here to the Pokemon grind and to this show. Don't ever forget it. Now, we do have some stuff to open today. So, got a couple of mail items. Larger package, which I believe is something for the sealed collection. Anytime you usually get stuff in the larger packages, it's sealed product. So, what I want to talk about first, before we get into opening anything, is what the struggle was like collecting cards back in the 90s. Hey, now when I say struggle, I mean struggle as a kid, and the particular environment I grew up in my household. And this is a normal type environment, right? So I'm not saying that we were overly poor or something like that. But my mother and father used to teach us discipline. So we didn't just get money. And I'll talk about some of the friends, especially the friends my brother had, that were just, they had unbelievable card collections. And this was when they were like back in middle school. So nowadays, I think the problem that kids are facing, at least in the current environment, is that there's just no product to open, okay? But back in my day, there was plenty of product. So you would go to all of these hobby stores or Toys R Us or wherever you went, and you could get your hands on Pokemon cards. It wasn't that difficult. But let me tell you something. In my house, we grew up with discipline, and we grew up learning how to make money. So, I don't know how many of you get allowance or had allowance if you're an adult at this point. But allowance was where card money came from when I was growing up. You relied on your allowance, right? Maybe you could do some sort of a small hustle, but you have to remember when we started collecting, right? We were probably just in middle school when we started collecting cards. Now, that was about when the popularity of, so there was always sports cards, things like that. But as far as like movie franchise and show franchise based card games, that didn't come about until, I don't know, the mid 90s. Okay. So there might have been like collectible cards, like trading cards from a movie or something like that. Like, I don't know, Jurassic Park or Ghostbusters, right? But they were just pictures on the card of different scenes from the movie. It didn't actually have, you know, like the rules and various ways to play the game or something like that. So when we had the Pokemon phase hit, so there were a couple of things. First of all, before Pokemon, it was really Star Wars. Star Wars was the big one, right? So the Star Wars franchise had been around for a while, and I'm sure there were others at the time, but Star Wars CCG was one of the first ones that I remember, and probably the first one I started with when I was a kid. So, middle school, I'm talking maybe somewhere 11, 12, 13, something like that. I started collecting Star Wars CCG. And my brother and I, anytime we had the CCG, we would play the game. We would like to collect all of the, you know, rare cards, the good-looking cards, the main characters, but we would play the games too. And that goes for all of it. So Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, all of the card games that came out, we played the games. So when we would get allowance, you have to realize allowance was like, I don't know, I think it started at maybe $5. And a booster pack, the booster packs weren't really any cheaper back then. So they were still like $4. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because then that means today a booster pack is actually cheaper when adjusted for inflation, right? So a lot of people complain about how expensive stuff is. I know for video games it's like this. People turn around and they're like, oh man, it's, you know, $60, $70 for a video game. Are you kidding me? Go back and look at like the old Toys R Us inserts and the ads that they ran for Super Nintendo games and Sega Genesis games back in the 90s. I feel bad for my parents. Those things were like $80+ when they would first release. I mean, they were not cheap for those cartridge games. And in my head, I was always like, yeah, they're probably like $30 or something like that. No, when you go back and look, they are just as expensive as modern games are. And keep in mind, programming and a lot of the technology has come a long way. So one could argue, even though the graphics were simpler, it still took a large team and a lot of effort to put those games together back then with the limitations that they had. So anyway, going back, allowance, right? Allowance is like $5, and you worked your tail off for allowance. So I mean, you were working as hard as you could, making your bed, helping with dishes, doing whatever else you could, right? And I think it increased over time. So I do think allowance eventually became $10, maybe $20, like really into mid-teens. But my parents pretty much said, you're going to get a job once you, I think it was like 14. Basically, once you were legally able to work in the state of Maryland, which is where I grew up, it was job time. You had to go earn that money. So when you had $5 and you could get one pack, you don't understand what a big deal this was, right? Because time, all the time you put in, a whole week's worth of effort was going into one booster pack. So you had better hope that you were getting a good pull out of that booster pack, right? So some of the kids, and it was like an experience when you would go to the card shop and take that allowance that you had earned and decide on the booster packs. And man, when it was $10, because you could get 3 booster packs with that, that was an even bigger deal. It was like, okay, I need to figure out which expansions I'm going with this week. Where do I really need to round out my collection? Which one has the best rares or the ones that are going to be most tradable, right? It was like a whole business negotiation. When you got that money, you had to plan out what you were doing. It was serious stuff. So, some of the kids, especially my brother's friends, I don't understand what kind of, they would have these collections where it was like, oh, here's the entire base set Pokemon collection, like, you know, a week or two after it came out. Or they'd have huge binders full of just, you know, ultra rare and, you know, holographic pattern cards from all these different sets and things like that. And my jaw would hit the floor. And then I think about it now, and I'm like, what? How did they get that kind of money? Because the only way that they had collections like that, when it was that new, was that they were opening booster boxes. You had to. Because if you had that many cards, and it was that your collection was basically that filled out and worth that much so early in the lifetime of the actual game, you had to be buying booster boxes. Well, booster boxes were still the same price. They were like $85, $90. I mean, now they're more because of the way the current market is with the collectibles. But still, how on earth are you getting that kind of money? And I remember I used to be so jealous all the time. These kids would bring these binders over, and I had, like, you know, my measly amount to trade with. Now, in retrospect, it taught us hard work, and one of the things you realize, particularly as you get older, is the value of time. Man, nowadays, especially with kids, it's like if somebody would come to me and be like, hey, you can buy back the last 5 hours for, I don't know, $20, $50. I'd be like, here, take my money. I want the time back. I would love to be able to buy time back. Time is such a limited resource. It's really the only resource that we can't renew. But you would think about how much time you would spend in order to get just this limited amount of cards. And now I look at it as an adult. And so this is a warning to all you parents out there. Okay? If you end up, now I say this jokingly, if you end up limiting your kids in the amount that they can collect, then as adults, they're just going to go haywire. Because once, and that, you see that all the time. It's like once adults have disposable income, why do you think right now the card market, people are paying such exorbitantly high prices? Well, some of it's because they're chasing it and they want money. But a lot of it's because kids that grow up with something, once they have disposable income, right? Why do you think the video game market has continued to boom? And especially things like the retro game market where the prices have gone up. It's because you have all these people that grew up with the era of NES or SNES or N64, and they're just compiling collections, and they, all the childhood dreams, right? Oh, it's my childhood dream to have a base set full collection, or a first edition Blastoise or Charizard. Or it's my childhood dream to be able to buy an entire booster box and then open it up. Well, when you're an adult, you know, $80, that becomes a very affordable dream. Maybe not the first edition Charizard, but certainly opening up a booster box isn't that big a deal. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and take a look at some of this here. So, let's get started. First one up. I think we're doing singles first, and then we'll open the box at the end. And we have Gardevoir V. Alright, so let's open this, get this out of here. People always, and I know why they do it to secure the card, but people always love to put Scotch tape right at the top, and sometimes it gets close to interfering with the card. Alright, Gardevoir V. So this card was actually relatively cheap to pick up. I want to say it was like $2 or $3. The main reason I got this one is because I need this as a filler card for my Champions Path collection. So I opened Champions Path, never got either of the Charizards, the Rainbow Rare or the Shiny Charizard V, but I do still have missing pieces, and I want a complete set for Champions Path. So I picked that one up because that was dirt cheap. Gardevoir is also a pretty popular Pokemon, so I figured we might as well do that now before prices start to skyrocket. Because once prices start to skyrocket, and I don't know if they would skyrocket on a card like that, but better to get it while it's still a relatively new set and affordable. Alright, let's see what this next one is. Sure. Oh, there we go. Alright, these. So I ordered, if you guys remember, I showed a couple days ago the packs that came out of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the 25-year anniversary collector packs. So this is a bunch of the Pikachu promos that come from that particular set. So Pikachu promos over time do very well, and I wanted to have some for my collection. Obviously, I'll pick out which one I like the most, that looks the nicest, and then once I determine that one, I will end up, I might save one to grade, just so I have a graded one. I'm honestly holding off on a lot of grading right now because the turnaround times are ridiculous, but on top of the turnaround times being ridiculous, I need to see what it does to the market, because everybody's in this grading hype right now, and while it's backed up, slowly it's going to taper all of this graded material back onto the market, and if it becomes too flooded, then you're not going to have enough buyers for this hyperinflated graded card market. So anyway, I just wanted to pick a couple of these up because these will be worth trading down the road. So Pikachu promos over time tend to go up in value, and if there's other things I can't lay my hands on during this time, these will be nice. So I'll have one or two I keep in my personal collection, and I'll have, you know, 3 or 4 that'll be available for trade down the road. And I figured that would be a wise idea to pick up a couple of those. Alright, last of the small ones, and then we'll move on to the larger package. I think I know what's in the larger package. Alright, and here we have, yes, okay, give me a second to open this one. This is, and this top loader is very tight the way they put this in here. I don't like this at all. That was not a well put card. They did not put that in there very well. Alright. So I have a Scyther. So I picked up a Scyther at the local card shop. And that was a base set 2. This one is the original Jungle Scyther. And this looks to be, wow, this actually looks like it's in nicer condition than I originally thought when I looked at the eBay listing. So, but this is a pretty clean Jungle Scyther card. So that's going to go into the Jungle set. Recently, you guys have seen on video, I have been completing jungle, so I had the evolutions. I got the Flareon, the Jolteon, and the Vaporeon. And there you go. There's the jungle. Scyther. Right. So, last one, and we'll wrap up here. Okay, this is the larger box. If I'm not mistaken, this is a set of booster boxes that I ordered for Dragon Ball Super that are going to stay sealed in the collection. So Dragon Ball Super has been a pretty popular card game, and I am trying to get in on the, I call it the ground floor. It's rapidly been going up. But getting some of the sealed booster boxes for that are going to go up in value over time. So the first booster box that I picked up for Dragon Ball Super is Union Force. That one I was able to scoop up around $200, and that has already gone up. I think the lowest I see on eBay now is like $350. So I'm just going to hold on to that for a while. Now, could they reprint? Absolutely. They could always reprint. A lot of these card sets, they do get different reprints, but they're usually, they don't go back to the original set. They simply pick out specific cards and they mix and match them and then create a reprint run that's going to have a different numbering at the bottom and everything else. So the sealed original product, I still feel pretty comfortable in terms of picking up. So what I picked up now, because I'm trying to say within a budget that's then going to, you know, increase in value, is I got some of these. This is the, I believe, the 5th set, which is the Miraculous Revival. So if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the first appearance of the original Gogeta in the card game. So the box itself comes with a promo card at the top. I think it's like a Bardock, one of the Black Mask Saiyan cards. So I have not one, but 2 of these, because I was able to get these still somewhat reasonably priced. I want to say that these were $70 a piece. So these will definitely stay sealed in the collection. And hopefully they will continue to go up in value over time. In fact, when I looked the other day, I think these boxes were already somewhere between $90 to $100. So they've already increased by about $30. And some of that stuff, you have to pull the trigger because it's just going to continue to ramp up as people start realizing that's one of the next sets that's eventually being phased out. So the original Dragon Ball Super Galactic Battle, which was like the very first of the bunch, is up to between $700 to $1,000 per booster box. The Destroyer Kings, if you remember the other video, I found some of the booster packs from the local game shop. Destroyer Kings is actually up to, like, I don't know what it is, $2,500, like $2,500 per booster box. So that was the one that came after Miraculous Revival. Certain ones, particularly if they're popular, like Destroyer Kings was based off the new Broly Gogeta movie, which is extremely popular, has a huge fan base. So certain sets that are going to have certain chase cards, the original sets, all that sort of stuff, tend to go up exorbitantly high, especially ones with limited print runs. So if you look at things like the Tournament of Power, which was a smaller sub-series and had a very limited print run, and they didn't make a whole lot more of them, that one is, I don't even know what the price is now, like $5,000 a booster box. And what's crazy is you have to realize it's $5,000 a booster box for a set that came out in 2018. Okay, so you're talking about 2-3 years later, it's already acquired that much value compared to the $80 buy-in point that you had. So a lot of these, Dragon Ball Super is a relatively young card franchise in comparison to some of the originals like Pokemon and stuff. Now, obviously, Pokemon's continuing to release sets the same way Dragon Ball Super is. But if you look at Dragon Ball Super's base set, the way Pokemon's was in 1999, their base set is 2017, and it's almost $1,000 a box. That is not that long. So when you look at most collectible card games, usually their base set, it will slowly increase in value, but for it to go that quick is something else. That's actually pretty impressive. So, all right, that is going to be it. I'm getting ready to make some content for my other channel, so I have to start working on that. I've got a guide that I have to continue writing, so I got to switch into chemistry mode here and out of Pokemon mode. So I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I will try to update you guys as often as I can, and the professor is signing out. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you next time.